That is the ugly face of Priti Patel being promoted by the racist Daily Mail. The racist Daily Mail, which has been appeasing the Nazis in the 1930s and has been a supporter of fascist propaganda for the last 70 years, 75 years, dares to say that its racism is goodwill, our goodwill. How dare the racists lie so brazenly, our goodwill, testing our goodwill as if the people who are the victims of genocides, victims of massacres and mass starvations across the world, created by the racist imperialists, robbers and crooks and criminals, big business Britain that the Daily Mail is part of the propaganda for. How dare the racists and criminals and thieves and crooks call their atrocities and the deprivation and the denials goodwill? How dare they? And the UK Press Gazette, the so-called Press Gazette, which has compressed itself from UK Press Gazette to just Press Gazette, pressgazette.co.uk. The Press Gazette boasts today that it has carried out mammoth investigation into the lack of press freedom around the world, and that it has found 70% or more of the countries or the peoples across the world that it says it has surveyed live under regimes that are repressive and repress and oppress press freedom. Now that is a statement, that's an account, that's a suggestion that the people who are in control of the states, repressing and denying and oppressing journalists and the media, are doing that intentionally to deprive freedom, and they're forcing the journalists to go along for fear of their own lives and safety, go along in the repressive regime's policies, and to hide the truth about the atrocities being inflicted on most of the people in those countries by those regimes. Now that is the opposite to voluntary or willing participation in suppressing the truth. And the Press Gazette doesn't say anything about the UK press, Fleet Street, mainstream media, that are willingly taking part in the suppression of the truth. So the essential bottom line is the suppression of the truth, not how that suppression is taking place. Either under the authoritarian, dictatorial, oppressive regimes controlling the governments in those countries, or by Fleet Street and the UK mainstream media voluntarily, willingly volunteering to suppress the truth. And the effect and the impact of the voluntary suppression of the truth by the journalists in the UK, the impact is worse, because the victims of the suppression done voluntarily by the British press, Fleet Street, the victims, the targets, the people who are attacked by aggravated kind of assaults on their rights, have nowhere else to turn. They can't go to the World Forum, if there were theoretically World Forum, and complain. So this is today's example of voluntary suppression of the truth. in big, big letters the headlines in the Daily Mail. And it is exhibiting the complete corrupt mentality of the daughter of an asylum seeker or daughter of asylum seeking parents who came from East Africa but who originate from Gujarat in India. So Priti Patel is not just a right-wing conservative in this country, in the UK. She is also publicly known as a fan of the anti-democratic authoritarian offender, Narendra Modi in India. And Patel was caught lying as she broke the ministerial code, and she secretly visited a number of outfits in Israel that she was not supposed to do without disclosing in advance and seeking the clearance from the government of which she was a minister in the cabinet. So what we have on the evidence is that the UK Press Gazette is completely misleading and perpetrating a lying kind of stunt here. And we shall look at the Press Gazette and we can. So these are the beginnings of this part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast online, only on the internet from London. This is 12:49 hours GMT on Thursday, the 25th of March, 2021. So let's look at what the Press Gazette is boasting about. And it says, the main topic, Press Gazette Media Freedom Health Check. And it boastfully reports that 70% of world's population has little media freedom. That's the one. That is the boastful kind of Press Gazette boast. And it says that it has conducted the media freedom health check. That is a completely false heading. There is no media freedom for the people in this country either. And what these liars have done is give this Asian woman, a Muslim woman, the byline. It is the diversity trick. Aisha Majid, a Press Gazette analysis of media freedom around the world has uncovered 71 countries, over a third of the places we looked at, where there are critical issues around media freedom. These countries account for 70% of the world's population. And it says, working with colleagues on Investment Monitor, I don't know what that is, we have found that an absence of media freedom appears to be little deterrent when it comes to foreign investment from democracies like the US and the UK. This is despite the fact that the world's worst economic shock in modern times, the coronavirus crisis, was exacerbated by media secrecy around the outbreak when it first emerged in Wuhan, China, more than a year ago. And the map has got red ink spread across most of the regions and countries. Now, this map, according to this map, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, and most of that part covered by absence of media freedom. So there is nothing wrong with the UK. That is how the UK is being exhibited. And this is the item by this woman, Sue Reed. Now, Sue Reed has been with the right-wing press in this country, particularly investigating anything that will give the impression that the UK is a country full of goodwill and delivering kindness to the world, and that it is not in the dark or in dark age or darkness, whereas the rest of the world is in the darkness as compared to the UK. That is Sue Reed. And Sue Reed is the one that has been harassing, belittling, undermining the image and denying the entitlements of the people covered by international conventions and agreements that the UK signed up to, but UK flouts. And there is no sign in the UK Press Gazette so-called survey on freedom of press being denied to 70% of the people in the world, or the 70% of the 70%, however you look at it. And the Press Gazette doesn't even mention the duty and the role of the National Union of Journalists or similar organization. But the National Union of Journalists, of course, is the numerically in the UK, the biggest numerical kind of outfit called the Journalists Trade Union. And the Journalists Trade Union, the NUJ, has a bureaucracy that is corrupt, that is in denial, and that is racist. And in the last, let's say, nearly 40 years, or 4 decades, during which the new assault on Muslims generally was launched by launching Saitan Rushdie. Saitan Rushdie is the quote Muslim who told on the secrets of Islam in the Muslim community. That was a grotesque, poisonous confection. Saitan Rushdie, in none of his so-called books, including the most promoted in the West, Midnight's Children, did not tell the truth at all. Saitan Rushdie actually aided and abetted the false image of the subcontinent at midnight in August 1947, 14th and 15th of August 1947. From then on to up to the time that Saitan Rushdie wrote the book, it was a confection intended to distort the image of the people of the subcontinent and especially hold the Muslims responsible for all the ills of the subcontinent. And Midnight's Children was conceived by Saitan Rushdie behaving in the 1980s. Well, he wrote it confected it during the 70s, but it was published in the 1980s in exactly the same way that the daughter of a Bengali father and a white mother, Monica Ali, was to do 20 or 22 years later against Brick Lane. So an agenda was set, and it was foisted on the subcontinent. That was real, it was not a fictional place, the subcontinent. Just as Monica Ali had an agenda all written for her, and she was used to foist it on the real Bangladeshi people in Brick Lane and undermine the Bangladeshi people in Brick Lane. So what the UK Press Gazette is doing is publishing something that post facto justifies the racism of the British press, especially as boasted of and boosted by the lying statement by the Society of Editors. The Society of Editors is a bogus organization, which is not a society at all, which is not an association at all, but it's a cabal. Confected. The cabal has been confected to carry out strategic propaganda for the racist status quo, which is what the Society of Editors actually did. When it came into life as part of Brenda's propaganda kind of assault against Meghan Markle, whose interview conducted by Oprah Winfrey was broadcast earlier this month, and which interview revealed what has been known already, that Meghan Markle was targeted by the racists in the Brenda family, that is the royal family so-called. And the Fleet Street papers were absolutely unable to actually suppress the allegations against racist royal family, allegations made by Meghan and Harry in the Oprah Winfrey interview. So when they failed to suppress that, the racists in Fleet Street were desperate to look for some kind of platform, some kind of veneer that was respectable to the ordinary gullible people. And so they came up with the Society of Editors. It said that the Fleet Street papers were not racist. Just like Wills, as egged on and tutored by Carol Middleton and her daughter, Kate Middleton, said the royal family is not racist. It was a denial, which actually was the opposite of what the kind of truth was. And the truth was that the royal family was and is and has been and will continue to be a racist operation, a racist business, as is the entirety of Fleet Street and the rest of the UK press that Fleet Street actually infects and coexists with. Now, this is Sue Reed. Sue Reed is given this page 2 pages spread. And the lying against the asylum seekers, the lying is so brazen that it has to be read. They're saying that the asylum seekers are the ones who should be suspected of bringing the virus because they arrived from areas rife with COVID. And Sue Reed says, but the virus checks in Britain are haphazard and they're free to stroll the streets. These asylum seekers, she suggests, carrying rampant virus on them. Stroll, they're free to stroll the streets. Stroll the streets. It's not just merely walking, defiance, and a freedom. How dare these asylum seekers stroll on the streets of London or UK? Now, it's not racism that is kind of concealed in the corners of the conservatives. It's racism that is brazenly out there and being incited by the Daily Mail and by the likes of Sue Reed. And Sue Reed, who has been active with the racist channel, English channel so-called on this side, and the French call the French channel the other side. And Sue Reed has been doing it for me, is testing our goodwill. It is doing no such thing at all because all the evidence from the international agencies, people crossing not being overwhelmed, there is no goodwill in test. And the county council, the hundreds of on migration, safety of women on the streets. They're wrong. It's illegal. It's cruel. And typified by the Daily Mail and the Rupert Murdoch scum, which uses any excuse to put a picture or all of them are in denial and they're publishing lies. And on papers where it's the same fascistic illegality. All the evidence before we say whether he is or not. When he did do that, wear the swastika, he was behaving like a fascist, of course. And at that time, I don't think he even knew that Meghan existed as a human being. So, has Harry actually recanted, that is, disowned his own fascistic behavior in the intervening years? I mean, that is a question we put on the record, and we are not, as I said before, not stating a particular opinion about that behavior. We are investigating. Now, on to page 17 of today's Murdoch scum. And there is this headline promotion by Rod Liddell for Boris Johnson, who said that greed is good. That is Johnson on the right in the corner, bottom right. And on the left is the picture of Michael Douglas. Playing Gordon Gekko in the hit film Wall Street, where greed is good. Now, this is a kind of confusion of so many things together that it will take longer than we intend to spend on this particular item, except to say that anything Rod Liddell writes in The Sun is a lie. That's the first thing. And anything Rod Liddell writes more than once, which he has done against Meghan Markle, including today, Meghan Markle and Harry, he has written twice. There are more than two pieces. One is the main piece is against them as well. But the main piece is against the ordinary people in the UK that are being robbed of our rights by the lying cabal fronted by the congenital liar Boris Johnson. So the Society of Editors and the UK Press Gazette are liars for denying that these kind of lies exist. And the pornographic coverage continues on page 19 with the promotion of the most kind of disguised porn star, Kim Kardashian, in a new stunt. Kim Kardashian has not been described as a porn star, but the people following her and following her antiques have done that because they saw her as a porn adult actress. There was no intellectual content. There was no ethical analysis. There was nothing except her physique and her anatomy that the followers actually have been following her for. And the panel on the right hand side of the Daily Mail Online that contains thousands and thousands of images of Kim Kardashian and similarly attired or not attired adult porn actresses disguised as celebrities. That column on the right hand side of the Daily Mail Online is the one that actually attracts most of the 200 million views or viewers or clicks that the Daily Mail boasts about. It's not about the contents, it's not about the morality, the ethics, the rigor, or the intellectual analysis contained in the Daily Mail Online. It is the literally adult photographs and videos of these people like Kim Kardashian that are treated by the clickers as adult sites or adult accounts. And here is a naked woman, completely naked woman, pictured from the sideways behind so that her front is not before the camera. But that is an excuse, and the Daily Mail is publishing it quite. The Sun, sorry, not the Daily Mail, but the Sun and the Daily Mail do the same thing, similar things. This is the Sun. And that is how they actually get the majority of the viewers or readers. So there is no truth in the UK Press Gazette claiming that other people, other countries, not Britain, have got the repression of press freedom by their state, by the governments. Because in the UK, it's not the government that is overtly doing this. It's covertly doing this, but the press themselves are intentionally colluding and collaborating with the suppression of the truth, just as is evident in today's papers. Daily Mail, the scum. Now, we move on to the election, the referendum that is due to take place on the 6th of May 2021 in Tower Hamlets about the option to vote no to the elected mayor or to vote yes to the continuation of this corrupt denial of democracy. And this comment, this particular statement I'm making this minute, comes on the day after Robert Jenrick, the successor in the post, not directly, immediately succeeding Eric Pickles, but a successor in the de facto in the same post of community secretary or cabinet member at the expense of the duties the central government has to support the local communities. And this is the decision that Robert Jenrick has made against the city of Liverpool yesterday by formally confirming that Liverpool City Council would be run by commissioners sent by the central government, that is Robert Jenrick. And the Guardian piece is timid, as we have said. Guardian is a colluder with corrupt local councils. So anything against the local councils, the Guardian goes into the mode of in denial, almost submerged in its denial. And that's how it is. The smallest item on the front page of the Guardian about the UK central government sending commissioners to supervise the running of the Liverpool City Council. And why? Because the Liverpool City Council has had an elected mayor, as well as the Liverpool region, like the Merseyside. But we're talking about not about the region, which includes other councils, including Liverpool. It's the Liverpool City Council which has had its own mayor for a number of years. And this is an event, sending of the commissioners by central government, that is directly linked with the role played by the so-called commissioners as appointed by the Secretary of State. And that role is to de facto, in effect, lift out of relevance, out of existence, the post holder called the executive mayor for Liverpool, which was until let's say, the time he was arrested by the police, either December or January. And Joe Anderson, the elected mayor of the city of Liverpool, has been exposed as being involved in a number of crimes. And one of the people arrested along with Joe Anderson was the 1980s Liverpool City Council deputy leader, a man called Derek Hatton. Now, Derek Hatton was arrested as well as Joe Anderson. So no reasonable person could ignore these events, let alone ignore these events and then claim all kinds of things against the government. What is happening with this series of arrests is that neither Joe Anderson nor Derek Hatton nor any of the others, there have been others that were arrested, along with Hatton. None of them has said, and I dare say none of them can say, anything in justification of allowing the continuation of this mayor post. And the mayor post, I mean, let's go into the inside page 23, and see how pathetically the Guardian is desperately trying to conceal that. I mean, taking to page 23 is not really the correct thing to do. The Guardian should have printed the whole thing in the lower half of the page 1. And as I said, the Guardian has got a long history of colluding with elected mayor regimes. And that collusion was most brazenly exposed in the Guardian's collusion with the elected mayor post holder Luther Roman at the expense of Tower Hamlets for the whole period during 2010 until the election commissioner kicked Luther Roman out of that post on the 23rd of April 2015. And here, allegedly a North of England correspondent, Josh Halliday, has got a byline. And it's headlined government, or it's headed, because there are two lines, so it's headed. Government intervenes to send task force into dysfunctional Liverpool. Now, all the dysfunction and negative descriptions of Tower Hamlets elected Mayor Luther Roman read like, and still read like, the longest list published against an elected post holder anywhere in England for a long time. This is fact. This is not some kind of invention or speculation by this campaign or by me. For example, although Liverpool City Council Mayor Joe Anderson is very highly disliked by Fleet Street because of his connection with Jeremy Corbyn, even Fleet Street has not published anything like the long list of items concerning the crimes of Joe Anderson while in post of the elected mayor. Because Joe Anderson didn't do the crimes. So no matter how disliked he was by Fleet Street dug deep to find the dirt, sufficient dirt to personally vilify Joe Anderson in a way that Fleet Street would love to do that. So they haven't done that because they couldn't find the evidence. And yet, Luther Rahman has got the longest list of allegations against him, claims against him, as made by Richard Morey, as made by the petitioners who applied for Lutfur Rahman to be declared unelected, not elected, and so on. So none of those would match. That is to say, the long list of allegations, fact-based assertions against Lutfur Rahman, the list is longer. The list is longer than the list as published and as publishable against Joe Anderson of Liverpool. So that is the first and most obvious factual point on which to make sure that on the 6th of May, the electors don't squander the opportunity to say no, vote no to the elected mayor. So we have got all the evidence that are available through the internet, and we shall be going through those items today by way of updates and by way of evidence. And then we've got updates on Shamima Begum and how the Tower Hamlets Council failed to safeguard Shamima Begum and the 3 other girls, schoolgirls from Tower Hamlets, during the years of their childhood, when they were misled, contracted, and targeted by source or sources, element or elements that Lutfur Rahman should have known about or probably knew about. Regardless of whether he knew or didn't know, the fact that these girls were misled and their lives put on the road to destruction cannot be denied. The duty of Tower Hamlets Council and its executive mayor in post throughout the 6 calendar years from October 2010 up to the 23rd of February 2015. That time was the crucial time. And the questions have been, what, if anything, did Lutfur Rahman do to safeguard these children from Tower Hamlets? And we shall be continuing with these. And on Shamima Begum's other claims and the racist treatment of her by the UK Home Secretary, son of a Pakistani bus driver, according to the myths spread by The Guardian,